Hello, everyone. You probably all remember that in 2005, there were terrorist bombings in London. More than 50 people died. Al-Qaeda, war on terror, it was all over the news everywhere. At that time, I was in my office in Casablanca, Morocco. I'm a journalist. And I received a phone call. And there was a French TV producer who wanted to invite me to a news show. And he said, well, you know, there's all this talk about how Islam and terrorists are linked and all these misconceptions in the West about Islam being a religion of violence and terror. And we know better, and we know you know better because we checked out your magazine, and we know it's quite a liberal and progressive magazine. So we would like to invite you to our show to come and tell the Western viewers that Islam is not a religion of violence and terrorism, and it is rather a religion of peace and tolerance. I said, well, first, thank you very much for inviting me to your show. As for Islam being a religion of peace and tolerance, honestly, I don't know. I mean, after all, bin Laden is using verses of the Quran. He's not making them up, is he? But on the other hand, you got this Algerian scholar named Malek Shebel, who wrote many books, and among them there's one book called the Islamic Kama Sutra, another one called the Islamic Ontology for Love and Wine. I love this guy. This guy is also picking arguments from the Quran. So basically, my point is, Islam is neither a religion of this or that. It's whatever you want it to be, just depending on the verses you pick. And this holds true for every religion. This debate about what religion is has been open when religion was invented like thousands of years ago. And guess what? It's not closed as for today. It's a matter of religious scholars. So I tell this guy, thank you for inviting me, but if I come to your show, it will be to say that. It will be to claim the right to not be defined by religion. And then he was there on the phone telling me, well, but I'm confused. Aren't you a Muslim? And I was okay. I said, what's your name? I said, my name is Paul. I said, okay, Paul, are you a Christian? He said, yes, well, no, not exactly. I mean, my parents used to take me to church when I was a kid, but, you know, I'm a French guy. I don't really care. That's a personal thing, right? I said, exactly, it's a personal thing. You don't care. So why do you assume that I do? Why do you assume that I don't have personal feelings? Just because your name is Paul and my name is Ahmed? Actually, Paul was given me the choice of either identifying to this version of Islam, it's not really sexy, or to this one. They're much cuter, right? But what if I wanted to identify to this one? This picture was taken in a Moroccan town named Essaouira. Well, every year, there is a music festival that lasts like 5 days, and people, you know, they dance, they party, they smoke cigarettes. They have lots of fun, and I can tell you that religion is the last thing on their mind. So basically, these three options, Paul was just depriving me of one of them without even asking me. And I told him, Paul, this is not right. By depriving me of, by tagging me a Muslim and tagging all these people of living in this part of the world, Muslims, without even asking them, you're depriving them of something that you consider is your right, which is freedom of choice and freedom of belief. And you know what? This is, by the way, a universal human right, and it's called universal for a reason. It's because it applies to all the universe, and I am also a member of the universe, Paul, mind you. So please stop imposing on me your Orientalist, essentialist, patronizing views and allow me to come to your show and to say just that. And then there was a silence on the phone. And I had to say, Paul, are you still here? He said, yes, I'm here. It's just that I'm a little surprised. It's not exactly what I expected. You know what? Let me call you back, okay? They never called me back, not surprisingly. So I'm not different than Paul with regards to what he thought. I mean, obviously we have the same brain and we are there's no difference between the way I use my brain and the way Paul is using his brain. There is, though, a major difference between Paul and me. It's the countries we live in and the legislations that govern us. For Paul, not caring is a right. He's a French guy, so it's okay legally to not care. For me, it's not legal. It's not okay legally to not care about religion. As in Morocco, Islam is the religion of the state, and so it is. It's the same case for all Arab countries. It's phrased differently, but it's there in all the constitutions. So I am, as a Moroccan citizen, legally deemed a Muslim as a matter of law. What does it mean technically? Let's go through some examples. During Ramadan, there's this holy month once a year where Muslims should fast from dawn to dusk. Well, if I have a sandwich or just a glass of water in the street by daytime in Morocco or in many other Arab countries, well, I go to jail for 6 months. So it's basically forbidden to drink water in the street by daytime. Here, sexual relations, you can't have them unless you're married. In Morocco, sexual relations between unmarried people, 6 months in jail. In Saudi Arabia, it's something between 100 lashes and death, and stoning to death. And it's the same in every Arab country has its own brand of oppression, but it's basically oppressed everywhere. Homosexual sex, obviously, is forbidden, since heterosexual sex is, homosexual sex is as well. If I want to drown my sorrow in booze because there's too many constraints, I can't, legally speaking. Because alcohol is not sold in a lot of Arab countries, and in the countries where it's sold, it's not meant, I'm talking about Morocco, it's not meant to be sold to Muslims. I mean, I can get into a bar and be served a glass of wine, but then I could go to jail, and the bartender would go to jail as well, because it's supposed to serve the wine only to foreigners who are visiting Morocco. What if I said, you know what, this is really a lot of constraints, so I just want to change religion. I don't know, convert to Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism for that matter. Well, I can't. Again, it's forbidden apostasy. It's a serious felony, a serious crime in the Arab world. In Morocco, the felony is called Za'za'at Aqidat Muslim, which means shaking a Muslim's faith. I go to jail for that too. Basically, merely doubting is illegal. You cannot express your doubt out loud. Otherwise, you go to jail. So this is how it works legally. This is the law. Now, let me tell you about real life. In real life, in Morocco, not only are all the people who drink alcohol supposedly Muslims, but Morocco is a wine producer. And so is Algeria, and so is Lebanon, and so is Jordan, and so is Syria. And I'm probably missing a couple of Arab countries here. So tell me about local people not drinking alcohol. Let's talk about sex. As it goes, legally, we can't have sex unless we're married. But, marriage is an economic endeavor. You cannot get married unless you have an income, a salary, enough money to sustain a household, etc. The economic difficulties and unemployment being what they are in the Arab world, the average age for marriage is 31 years for men and 27 years for women. Think about that. Do you really think we don't have sex before the age of 31? How ridiculous is that? Of course, there are homosexuals in the Arab world like anywhere else in the world, except in Iran, of course. As President Ahmed Benchemsi, he said that in New York, and it was in Columbia University, I believe. The whole audience bursted in laughs when he said that. They thought he was joking. He was not joking, he was serious. How delusional is that? Come on. And as about, not fasting or just thinking differently, abiding to another religion or not having any religion, do you really think that of all people in the world, the Arabs will be some kind of Orwellian robots who just don't doubt? Why is that? There's no reason why we would be like that. So obviously, these laws are not applied. What happens is that millions, tens of millions of people break the law every day to the knowledge of the authorities because they simply cannot enforce the legislation because it's not possible. Bottom line is, Islam is not the #1 paradigm in the Arab world. Hypocrisy is. Delusion is. it got to the point that this attitude somehow became associated to traditions. Like one of the many things you cannot do when you're a Moroccan woman is marrying a foreigner who is not a Muslim, who is not deemed to be a Muslim. So the foreigner, let's take a blonde-haired, blue-eyed American John who wants to marry a Moroccan Khadija. So John would have to convert to Islam before marrying Khadija. Not just that, but he would have to change his name. So John would become Muhammad before marrying Khadija. And I witnessed that in my own family. I mean, that generally the reaction of the man is, why is that? I mean, this is ridiculous. This is not about religion. It's about love. I love Khadija and I want to marry her. Why should I change my name? And then the family of the woman would come to him and tell him, it's okay, you know, when the government clerk comes to you and asks you your name, when he registers the marriage, just tell him your name is Muhammad. It's okay. You'll have a good night. You wake up tomorrow as John again, and that's it. It's not a big deal. It's just an innocent tradition. Well, think about it. Since when did it become a tradition to lie to the government? Because that's what we're doing, basically. A society built on lying and cheating is obviously not sane, if not to say insane. And it creates a whole string of psychological disorders that cripple the very functioning of society. I could name plenty of them, but I don't have enough time for that. I would just name one. It's the feeling of guilt. Since everyone, or almost everyone, is breaking the law, a double law actually, the divine law and the earthly law, the legislation all the time, well, people feel guilty all the time. And you know what? This is the number one lever used by Islamic fundamentalists to bring people to them. So this is how weird this gets. So how can you address this? Well, I'm a journalist. And in Morocco, I used to run a couple of magazines, one in French and one in Arabic. And our editorial line was Morocco as it is, Al-Maghrib kama huwa. Basically, our editorial line consisted in just showing all these inconsistencies with the minimum self-censorship. So we got stories like, why are we complex, like schizophrenic country, Moroccans and sex, homosexual. The first coming out in the Arab world, this is something I'm very proud of, happened in my magazine. This cover is pretty much self-explanatory, I believe, this one. So, of course, Islamists attacked us very quickly, saying, oh, you're a bunch of westernized guys. And we said, no, this is not West. This is not the West. This is the Moroccan society. We're just reflecting the way it is. And this is what we call secularism from within. Meaning we're not importing some set of values from the West or the outside world. We're just witnessing, we're just seeing what's happening here and giving it a name. And the other critique, they said, well, okay, but this is just, you know, elitist ideas that you will just convince a tiny minority with these strange ideas. Well, too bad for them. My magazines became #1 in the country, and we outranked our competitors with quite a wide margin. This says something, I believe. It says that we filled a major void. Stifled by hypocrisy as they were, the people were craving to embrace any newspaper or any media outlet who would just tell them, we know you're like this, you have problems with the legislation and religion, but you know what? It's okay. You're entitled to it. This is just called human rights. It's fine. So secularism from within. Basically, what I call secularism is the separation of mosque and state. It's just stripping all the legislation pertaining to human affairs from all religious references. But how can we promote that without being accused immediately by the Islamists of promoting Western values? Well, it's very simple. We need to preach, we need to not preach secularism against Islam, but simply to preach honest self-depiction rather than delusional hypocrisy. In other words, we will preach secularism from within in the name of social authenticity. Take that, Islamists. It's definitely not a Western value. It's what we are already. We are just making peace with it. I understand this is quite a provocative thing to say, but hey, I mean, provocation, there's no bigger provocation than the truth, right? But yet, we have to say it. At the end of the day, what's at stake is moving from irrationality to rationality. And no civilized country avoided that move. There's no reason why the Arab world should be immune of that. We need to go there, sooner or later. I believe the sooner, the better. Thank you very much.